Whew, I have no idea how I used to get up at 4 a.m. to go to work at like 6 o'clock right now, and I feel beat, and I'm sure I look like it too. During 2020, I'm sure just like a lot of people, there hasn't been a lot of things to do. And one of the places that myself included have been looking to do has been going outside and hiking. I live up in Oregon, a very beautiful place, and so I've spent a lot of time outside. I've gone on some very beautiful hikes, but one thing that really stuck with me is that I went on this hike with my roommate a couple months ago, and we got to the very top, and I'm taking a video doing kind of this broad view of what we can see from the very top. And the second I put the camera down, I look over and I see these two beer cans just sitting there. That someone hiked these beers all the way to the top, drank them, and then just left them. And so I kind of have this hypothesis that with 2020 stopping a lot of things that people enjoy doing, going out to restaurants, going to bars, getting rid of movies, sporting events, a lot of people are spending a lot more time outside. And so I kind of have this hypothesis that a lot of these trails are going to be covered in trash. And so today I'm going to give myself a little bit of a challenge because I'm curious to see if that's true. My goal for today is to go and hike around Portland. I feel like there's this mindset that the grass is always greener on the other side. I have these aspirations of going on these major hikes in places like Yellowstone, going back to Yosemite, doing all this stuff. But I live in a city that has some beautiful hikes within the city limits. So I'm going to try to hike the trails that have the most amount of foot traffic, and I'm going to collect as much trash as I can in a single day because I want to have this video, this picture of how much trash I was able to collect in a single day. I'm going to try to go from sun up to sundown. I have no idea if my body is going to allow me to do that, but I did not plan this out. It is still dark out, so I still have a little bit so I can enjoy my coffee for a bit. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens today, and I haven't been this excited about a single day in a long time. I had some problems sleeping last night, and I'm just excited to go out there and see what happens.
So the first hike was picked specifically because I could walk to it from my apartment. I woke up, left at like 7 a.m., and walked my way there. It was around 2 miles to get there. But it was so weird going past all these people on their way to work, and I was just going out for a hike. When I was out there, I only saw like one or two people. I saw a really nice dog while I was out on my hike, but it was very different considering most of the hikes that I've done have been on the weekends where all these trails are crowded with people. And then I decided to make this rule that anytime I went to a fork in the trail, I would always go up the hill because why not?
Who knows? It almost feels wrong to be out here right now. I don't know, maybe it's because it's like 9 a.m. on a Thursday, but it's so weird that I've gotten used to having this 9 to 5 schedule Monday through Friday, even though I make YouTube videos. I can do pretty much whatever I want, but I feel like I've been stuck on this path of having to follow the normal schedule. And so being out here, I don't know, I've been on this hike for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I haven't seen anyone. I've seen some tracks, but yeah, it's just very different to be out here. Also haven't seen a lot of trash yet, so I'm keeping my eyes peeled, but it is beautiful out here for sure. I had a feeling that today this was going to be my most common foe, and it's a good thing I planned ahead because I have hand sanitizer. But first one of the trip, I'm expecting I'm going to find way more of them by the time I'm done.
And that was the end of my first hike. It ended up being 9 total miles when you include the 2 miles there and back. But when I was out there, I did not see as much trash as maybe I was kind of expecting. I ended up making this rule while I was out there that if I saw something that was significantly off the trail, I wasn't going to go pick it up because I didn't want it to be a type of scenario like what I always think of with the Marvel movies where they end up saving the day, but they destroy the city in the process. So I didn't want to be knocking down any of the ferns or the bushes to go pick up maybe like a coffee cup that had been left out there. So I wanted to make sure that if I could grab something safely without hurting any of the plants out there, I would do it. And then I went to the second location, which was around 10 minutes south of me, right by Lewis and Clark College. When I got there, it was a very different situation than the first trail that I was on. The first thing is that it's a state park, meaning that there was a lot more people at this individual trailhead. And there was also a lot of people working on the actual trail, meaning that it was very well kept.
So far, this has been a very different type of hike. For one, it is much more traveled. I've seen a lot more people out here. Also, the last hike I did was up in the mountains a little bit, up in the hills, like 1,000 feet. This one is down in a ravine, and there's a lot of fallen timber. And so it's a very different situation than what I was just in. Also, because I'm in an Oregon State Park, I haven't really found as much trash, which I mean is a good thing because there's, not trash, but kind of defeats the purpose of me coming out here. It is still beautiful, but it's very muddy and I'm having a really hard time picking up the trash.
So during this hike, it was very muddy, and I ended up getting embarrassed by this older woman that was walking past, and I kind of stopped at the trail because I didn't think I could make it down the incline without slipping, and she just kind of looked at me, giggled, and walked on, and I did not feel comfortable walking. I did not want to slip and land in the mud. So this second trail was kind of underwhelming compared to the first when it came to the overall the trash situation. But I ended up getting in my car, driving north over to Forest Park, which is 5,200 acres in the center of Portland.
So I'm on the last hike of the day. I'm like 3 miles in at this point, and my legs are finally getting tired. I'm on the backside of the hill, and it is very cold as well. So I haven't found any trash. This is a very well-kept trail. But yeah, my legs are starting to hurt, and I'm ready to finish this out.
So I finished up this last hike that ended up being around 3.5 total miles, and I did not see any trash whatsoever. So in total, I ended up hiking around 16 miles, but a majority of the trash I picked up was in the first 9 miles of the actual day.
So it's the next day. I decided to sit down because I have spent enough time standing up in the past 24 hours. I just kind of wanted to reflect on how things went because it was definitely an interesting experience, and I didn't really know what to expect going into it. So the key takeaway is I went out, I explored for 8, 9, 10 hours and had a great time by myself. Did not get as much trash as I was kind of expecting, which I guess is a good thing. The further the day went on, I started at 3 different types of trails. I started with a trail that is maintained by the city, then I went to a state park, and then at the very end, I went to a very large city park, and I expected to get there and have a lot of trash on the ground. But as the day progressed, I found less and less trash. Most of the trash that's in there was from the first hike, which, I mean, it was like 9+ miles, so I did spend a lot of time on it, but I was pleasantly surprised on how little trash there was out there. I think the biggest takeaway for me on this day was the fact that I spent all this time by myself. I think myself and pretty much everyone at this point has gotten so used to having this constant stimulation, whether it be the need to have music or a YouTube video or a TV show playing whenever I do anything. I made it a point to not bring headphones on these hikes. I wanted to be out there by myself with my thoughts and be able to hear all like the nature sounds around me. And I thought it was a really interesting experience because I cannot remember the last time I've gone this long without, listening to music, a podcast, because I've always felt the need if I'm doing anything for longer than a couple minutes, I want to be listening to something. And going out there and spending 10 hours by yourself, not listening to anything, you think for a lot. And I think it's a really positive thing. I think people should try to disconnect for a couple hours a day. I think it's really good for the brain. But overall, I thought this was a really interesting experience. I highly recommend that if you're going to be going out on a hike, just bring a little trash bag with you, throw some stuff in there. At this point, maybe didn't make as much of an impact as I thought, but there's trash out there, and with people going out and hiking more, I think it's a good thing to try to, have a net positive, because with climate change, with everything going on, we have to be doing more than just trying to do our own fair share. We have to make up for the people that are kind of slacking, because I found a lot of interesting trash out on the trails, stuff from dispensaries, a lot of water bottles, and just random trash. So overall, it was a pretty good experience. Highly recommend going out and hiking alone. It's not something that a lot of people do, but it was a good experience to have, and it's probably the best Thursday I've had in a long time. I had a great time.